have our next session now.
La révolution design d'une marque.
The design revolution of a brand. The Novotel case presented by Frédéric Alzeari, Nadège Dumont Keryhuel, Global Vice President, Novotel Accor. Bittor Sanchez-Monasterio, Vice President, Design Eco and Midscale Global Accor.
Eh bien,
So, good evening, all three of you. Thank you for joining us here. And we're going to talk about the design revolution of an incumbent brand in France, Novotel. Before talking about what you did, I would like to ask you to tell us about the context, the reasons why you started thinking about all this. Well, Novotel is the incumbent Accor brand. It's been around for 50 years, and the first hotel was opened in France in Lille, based on the concept of the American motel. So at the time, it was very innovative, and there were comfort standards that did not really exist in French homes. Since then, Novotel has grown. Today, we have more than 550 hotels in the world, in 50 countries, and we are developing very strongly because we expect some 150 new openings in the next 5 years. Since we are the incumbent brand of a group, we have to remain state-of-the-art. And in this project we carried out together, we had to be modern. We had to be a premium brand so as to meet the needs and the expectations of our guests. And we had to be relevant vis-à-vis the origin of the brand. And we knew that design would be a very powerful platform. Design is not just a question of aesthetics and decoration. It was more strategic. And we were searching for the brand strategic pillars: diversity on the one hand, modernity, and we wanted more economic flexibility, versatility, sustainable development. And this is what really drove us. So 3 pillars: versatility, sustainable development, modernity. We'll go back on this. And then I suppose you started a process, you started thinking about all this. How did you do it with your partners, with the agencies? Well, as a brand manager, I wanted to have a distinctive hotel experience without any standards. And for Novotel, it was very new. It was a major evolution because until now we had one single concept of a room that was developed throughout the world. So Bittor is going to explain to you how we integrated our teams from the whole world. So the objective was to do this naturally. And at Accor, we're trying to make our brand less standard. And we did it with an international pitch. There was an international competition in collaboration with our local partners. So in each region, we chose the most relevant region for the Novotel pipeline, and we organized a competition. We chose our architects, and we selected architects who, in their core business, were not working on traditional hotels. These are architects who stood out and who wanted to give a new design quality, new design solutions to Novotel. And this is why we chose and selected these architects. There were 4 winners in all the regions. And for Latin America, we had Metro. For Asia Pacific, we had Hypothesis. For the Middle East, there's an agency coming from Russia, but they had a lot of experience in that region. Sukovi Sisters and a European representative. We had Frédéric with our studio, who was invited. And I would like to know how you were driven to come to us to rethink the mid-scale Novotel brand, which was a traditional brand looking for innovation. So we are an agency based in Paris, working in the upscale and luxury, and we want to be multi-purpose. We want to work in the residential, tertiary sector, hotel management, but basically that was not our main activity. So there was a real link between our activity, which was upscale, and the will of Novotel to make Novotel a premium brand. That was the first thing. The second thing is that we were convinced that it's in the mid-scale universe that hotels are most innovative, because they don't have to deal with luxury, and they don't have the constraints of the more economic brands. And as a design agent, Novotel basically is an innovative brand. It's very radical in its proposal. And it bears it in its brand. And I would say that working with a brand that has dozens of thousands of rooms throughout the world, that's a good scale to make things move and change. Maybe you're going to describe how you did this in practice. But before that, Frédéric, in the room, there are quite a number of people investing in projects who have their own brands also for some of them. Maybe you would recommend some inspirations in other design universes, like the residential and in other activity sectors. So do you have any ideas that you could recuperate from those areas? I think there are synergies between several disciplines, several universes. I've worked a lot in offices and corporate head offices. And the way you have customer retention, canteens at work, relaxation at work, the different time phases at work, periods of concentration, group activities, etc. All that can create complementarities with the hotel universe. But when you work in the residential upscale area, you have to be careful about the comfort, the details, and that is related to hotels. So there are several bridgeways created with our activity, and this enriches the concepts with hotels. So how did you deploy all this? Well, at Novotel and in all hotel brands, we try to make sure that hotels are open spaces. We receive our clients, and anybody who wants to come to a hotel. I mean, hotels have to change their way of programming things, and they have to open up. By watching the video you'll be seeing later on, you will see how we've developed this concept. You will see the keywords that you will retain. And in this diversity, there are some common lines. The Novotel design, because the design of our brand is the way in which we will transform our brand value in space. What I found interesting is that with the same brief, we had 4 architect firms that had a different interpretation of things, with the same strong points for the brand, with a different interpretation. If we can have a look at the film, this will materialize in a better way what we're talking to you about here.
Très bien. Donc,
So you can see the diversity of the Novotels. It's not at all the Novotels we had beforehand that you remember of, maybe. And that was a strong strategic decision from our group. We have the 4 concepts, and we have flagship hotels with bespoke designs because the building requires it or because the business around requires it. And that's not at all a problem. It is important. The DNA, the design, the strategy is always present. At Metro, you saw that it's a combination of very crude material. It's a very modern of Brazilian inspiration with the same tones, but it is open to urban areas. With Santokovi sisters, it's a very natural atmosphere, the mixture between relaxation and business, very friendly atmospheres. And to end, before giving the floor to Frédéric, hypothesis concept. This comes from Asia with the freshness of their region. Not traditional hotels, but a search of the physical aspects. That is, not to have any waste, to have something sustainable, and see how we can save time and save the space also. And this diversity will be enlarged with the proposals from our studio. So our concept, we based ourselves on as rational an approach as possible. We proposed a basis that could be adapted to all the different hotel configurations, whatever the geometry, whatever the size available. And so therefore, you will see it on another picture. We worked on small theater decors that would occupy the entire space, within which there are a whole set of new services and new uses. I'd like to make a short digression. At the agency, we have the use cell that works specifically on these aspects. Some people, therefore, would think about the new services, the new technologies, the societal movements, and that give food to thought at the beginning of our projects. And that was the case in this project. So you were talking about these modules, and we do feel that these are small blocks and spaces, and you talked about flexibility. Now, how does this translate in these spaces? What is the nature of this flexibility? How do we change? How do we adapt it to individual projects? Bittor earlier on was talking about the evolution of the hotel, which is becoming a place to live, not only for travelers, but also for the local population. The uses are changing with the emergence of working from home. which is happening more often because of the COVID, but pleasure too. People remain for leisure after a business stay. And there are also other forms of leisure being used in hotels. Hotels are being used differently. And you must have seen it in one of the pictures. We had the welcome area, we had the lobby, and at Accor, we've changed this terminology, and it applies also to Novotel. It's called a social hub, a place that is friendly, and these spaces were to be changed. Instead of saying that these social hubs are the public areas of the hotel, they are disconnected with unique functionalities. We'd rather imagine the social hub as a totally open space, open between the different functions inside, so that one space can merge with another, so that it's very relaxed and friendly. And it isn't morning, I mean, it could be morning check-in, afternoon, a quieter space, and an evening we could have festivities. And in that way, we can attract people from outside. So our hotels are open from an architectural point of view. So they're really connected with the flow of the city and the city programming. And flexibility also means modularity. Frédéric talked about that. We like this image because here you can see how the social hub can have certain markers that are compulsory that represent the brand markers. Novotel, the food bar, which is a focal point at the reception with somebody who will be there to receive us. But it won't be the old style, with the check-in and the check-out. It will be a real different way of welcoming customers. And we will have specific buildings in a specific area, district. And this modularity was briefed to all our agencies. And we'll show you how RF Studio realized that in a very innovative manner. So what we did is that we worked and we decided to work on a human scale, like small theater decors, as I was telling you, that refer to domestic universes. You will have the library for co-working, for professional clientele. You'll have the dining room. You'll have spaces dedicated to families, to children, and all this is combined and remains open to all the different types of publics. So we wanted to really be closer to what's happening, what people see, what people touch. And we wanted to leave the existing shell. We wanted it to be as sober as possible. In addition to what Bittor was saying, yes, indeed, in our concept, we decided to have the food bar at the center of the space. As soon as you enter, this is where you will find a person to whom you can ask questions, get information. It's a focal point, a point of gravity in the space, which will be the heart of the social hub. It's our core business, of course, hospitality. And we talked about the concept and its different adaptations. Now, from the investor point of view, the owner, you talked about flexibility. In terms of a model, how does it work? Is it the same everywhere, or is it different per region? Well, we'd like to talk about versatility, financial versatility. We listen to our clients. Our clients are not just the guests, but we also have our hotel partners, and we roll out the concepts, and we have bespoke concepts, and each concept can be deployed in the rooms, in the corridors, and there are different levels of investments. So it means that I mean, there are certain standard concepts and there are economic standards. So each hotel will choose whether they want to invest more because their clients are more premiumized. And if we have a more challenging moment, well, then maybe we can carry out some serious renovation, but you have different economic alternatives. So there'll be different material, the furniture will change, but I'll let Frédéric talk about this with the example of our studio. Now, as for the rooms, more particularly, what we did is that we had an approach based on the furniture, light furniture, and this is quite new. We can change the room. It isn't a heavy layout that immobilizes everything in the room, especially when you want to do maintenance or replace a piece of furniture, when you want to renovate it in terms of its colors, etc. This is what we did with Accor. We've designed customized furniture right up to the lighting and the armchairs. And with the specific budget, we stressed on what the room user will see, what he will see when he's in his bed, for example. So there's a break in the room between two zones. There's an alcove with the domestic aesthetic, which is warm colors. And according to the types of rooms, you can have walnut, fabric, or painting, whether it's premium standard or alternative ranges. And you have more sober definitions. Of course, we respect what exists, and there's this strong gesture we've had to cut the room into two different parts. Well, if I've properly understood, you talked about 3 pillars earlier on. So you've explained the second one, versatility. Now, as for sustainable development, I suppose that there is another basis. What does that mean in terms of innovation? Well, sustainable development, that is a topic that is very important for our citizens, whether it's sustainable development or environment. People want the brands to be visible and sustainable. And at Novotel, we use that sustainable development prism, whether it's for the products we use in the rooms. We have dispensers now. Instead of mini doses, we've removed bottles that cannot be reused. And in terms of design, this is very important. I'll let Bittor tell you what we've done in terms of sustainable development.
In design, sustainable development is part of a major Accor project, quite wide-ranging. And from the design standpoint, it's not a matter of saying, oh, this is good use, this is bad use. No, we tried to be more proactive, and we try to operate on the basis of a circular economy, giving the designer the goal of doing less renovation, lighter renovation projects in the future. And we have what we call key factors, says the speaker in English, the right way of doing things, or the way we want things to be done. And then at Novotel, we're running a pilot test where all of the concepts are analyzed from the standpoint of their carbon footprint. So we know whether this design is more or less productive of CO2. And then it's the partner hotel's choice to decide whether they're interested in this or not. Additionally, we have supply analysis platforms. Scorecards are drawn up, and We give the supplier data about the lifetime of their product so that we can make an informed choice from the sustainable development standpoint. So rather than choosing a cost per square foot, I'm going to choose carbon emissions per square foot rate. So lightweight furniture, the circular economy, these were very important. How did this play into your way of doing things? Well, it was obvious to us that the choice of material, the sourcing, and looking at suppliers with good practices were important. And as Bittor said, lightweight furniture that was easy to replace, that was scalable, was our choice, rather than buying furniture that was going to stay in place for ever and ever. What we suggested was that the structure of the bathroom be retained, and that we needed to avoid demolition. Demolition is very damaging for the environment. This is something that really speaks to people in our generation. How did this change your outlook with this new toolbox? The design approach at Novotel has changed, and it's been a process of close cooperation between the departments, international and regional divisions. This brought all of us together. We have 35 projects underway worldwide. They should be completed 3 years from now based on these new concepts. It's a good start, and we hope to do more and more of this type of work. We are determined to make sense in the hotel industry. Novotel wanted to innovate. We wanted to be listening carefully to the guests' demands, expectations, and provide them with a warm and friendly corner in which to spend time. Who's our partner? The guest is. It's important to have several concepts of what we call different intensities, so that each guest can find the Novotel that suits them. Thank you. Questions? No questions?